There is something that quietly steals your peace every single day. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in small, unnoticed moments. A delay that irritates you. A comment that stays in your mind longer than it should. A situation that doesn't go your way, and slowly, your calm disappears. You feel tension. Your thoughts begin to race. And before you realize it, you are reacting instead of thinking. This is how anger works, not as a sudden explosion, but as a slow build-up. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that anger is not something that happens to you. It is something you allow. The teacher Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but how we interpret them. And Seneca warned that anger is temporary madness. If you want to master your life, you must first master this, because anger does not just affect your mood, it affects your decisions, your relationships, your future. If you want to build real inner peace and mental strength, subscribe to the channel, because everything begins within. 1. Pause before you react. There is a moment that decides everything. A moment so small, most people never notice it. It exists between what happens and how you respond. This moment is where your power lives. But most people lose it, because they react too quickly. They speak immediately, they act without thinking, they allow emotion to take control, and once that happens, it cannot be undone. Regret follows. A strong person does something different. They pause, even if it is only for a second, because that second creates space. And in that space, something important happens. Emotion slows down. Clarity appears. Control returns. The Stoics trained themselves to live in that space. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced restraint even in moments of pressure. He reminded himself not to be carried away by impulse. Because impulse leads to mistakes, control leads to clarity. At first, this pause feels difficult. Because anger feels urgent, it feels like you must respond immediately. But that urgency is an illusion, a trained response. The more you practice pausing, the more natural it becomes. You begin to notice your reactions earlier. You begin to slow them down, and over time, something changes. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding intentionally, and that is where real control begins. If this message is helping you become more aware of that small moment, subscribe to the channel. Because that moment is where your power lives, the illusion of urgency. One of the biggest lies anger tells you is this, that you must react immediately, that your response cannot wait, that if you don't act now, something will be lost. But this is rarely true. Most situations do not require instant reaction. They require clarity, they require understanding, they require control. But anger removes all of these. It replaces them with urgency, and urgency leads to mistakes. A strong person recognizes this pattern. They do not trust the feeling of urgency. They question it. They slow it down. They give themselves time to think. Because they understand something powerful. Time weakens emotion. The longer you wait, the clearer you think. The calmer you become, the better your response. This is why the pause is so important. It breaks the illusion of urgency. It gives you back control, and with control, you make better decisions. If this message is helping you slow down your reactions, subscribe to the channel. Because calm thinking creates better outcomes. 2. Your interpretation creates your emotion. Most people live as if their emotions are controlled by the world. Something happens, and they feel something. It seems automatic, But there is something in between, something most people ignore, their interpretation, the meaning they assign to the situation. This is what creates emotion. Two people can experience the same event. One becomes angry, the other remains calm. The difference is not the event, it is the interpretation. The Stoic teacher Epictetus explained this clearly. You are not disturbed by events, you are disturbed by your judgment of them. This means your thoughts are not passive, they are active, they shape your experience. A strong person understands this. They do not accept every thought as truth. They question it, they challenge it, they reshape it. When something happens, they ask themselves, is this really as bad as it feels? Am I assuming intent without evidence? Is there another way to see this? This simple shift changes everything. Because when you change your thinking, you change your emotion. And when you change your emotion, you change your reaction. This is the foundation of inner peace, not controlling the world, but controlling how you see it. If this message is helping you rethink your reactions, subscribe to the channel. Because peace begins in perception, the power of reframing. There is a skill that separates reactive people from calm ones, reframing, the ability to see the same situation differently. Most people see problems. A strong person sees perspective. A delay becomes time to think. A mistake becomes a lesson. A difficult person becomes a test of patience. Nothing has changed externally, but internally everything is different, because the meaning has changed, and meaning creates emotion. This is how you weaken anger, not by fighting it, but by changing the story behind it. A mentally strong person practices this daily. They look for alternative perspectives. They choose interpretations that create calm instead of chaos. And over time, this becomes natural. They no longer jump to negative conclusions. They no longer assume the worst. They see clearly, and because they see clearly, they remain calm. If this message is helping you see things differently, subscribe to the channel, because your perspective shapes your peace. 3. Stop expecting the world to be perfect. There is a hidden belief that quietly controls your emotions. A belief so common, most people never question it. The belief that things should go your way, that people should behave correctly, that life should be fair. And when reality breaks that expectation, anger appears, not because something terrible happened, but because something unexpected happened, something you did not plan for, something you did not accept. This is where frustration begins, not in reality, but in the gap between reality and expectation. The Stoics understood this deeply. They did not expect life to be easy. They expected difficulty. They expected unpredictability. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet people who are selfish, rude, and difficult, not to become negative, but to become prepared. Because preparation removes shock, and when you are not shocked, you are not overwhelmed. A strong person adjusts their expectations. They do not expect perfection. They expect reality. They understand that people act based on their own limitations, their own experiences, their own struggles, and because of that, they are not easily disturbed. They do not take everything personally. They do not react to every mistake. They accept what is and focus on what they can control. This is the difference. Acceptance does not mean weakness. It means clarity. It means understanding that fighting reality creates suffering, but working with reality creates peace. A mentally strong person does not resist what is inevitable. They adapt to it. They move through it. They remain steady, even when things do not go their way. And over time, this creates something powerful, emotional stability, because their peace is no longer dependent on perfection. It is built on acceptance. If this message is helping you release unrealistic expectations, if you are beginning to accept life as it is instead of how you want it to be, subscribe to the channel. Because acceptance is the foundation of inner peace. The trap of personalizing everything. One of the biggest reasons anger grows so quickly is because you make everything personal. Someone ignores you, you feel disrespected. Someone disagrees with you, you feel attacked. Something goes wrong, you feel targeted. But most of the time, it is not about you. People act based on their own thoughts, their own emotions, their own struggles. Their behavior reflects them, not you. The Stoics understood this clearly. They did not take everything personally, because they knew that doing so creates unnecessary suffering. A strong person separates themselves from the situation. They observe instead of absorb. They understand that not every action is directed at them, and because of that, they remain calm. They do not react emotionally to every situation. They choose their response carefully, because they understand something important. Not everything deserves your attention, not everything deserves your reaction. And when you stop personalizing everything, you free yourself from unnecessary anger. If this message is helping you detach from situations, subscribe to the channel, because detachment creates clarity. 4. You are in control of your response. There is one truth that can change your entire life. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond. This is where your power exists, not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. Most people misunderstand this. They try to control outcomes, they try to control other people, they try to control situations, and when they fail, they become frustrated, because they were trying to control something that was never theirs. The Stoic teacher Epictetus made this clear. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, these are yours. Everything else is external. A strong person focuses only on what they can control, because that is where change happens. When something goes wrong, they do not react immediately. They pause, they observe, they choose their response carefully, because they understand that their response shapes their experience. If they react with anger, the situation becomes worse. If they respond with calmness, the situation becomes manageable. This is not weakness, it is discipline, it is control, it is strength. The philosopher Seneca believed that true power is self-control. Because when you control yourself, you are not easily shaken. You remain steady, focused, composed, even when everything around you is chaotic. And over time, this creates stability, because no matter what happens, you remain in control of yourself. If this message is helping you realize where your true power lies, subscribe to the channel, because mastering your response is mastering your life, the discipline of emotional control. Controlling your response is not easy. It requires discipline. It requires awareness. It requires practice, because your mind is used to reacting quickly. It is used to following emotion. But discipline changes that. A strong person trains themselves daily. They observe their reactions. They correct their behavior. They improve over time, not perfectly, but consistently. And with consistency, something changes. They become less reactive, less emotional, more controlled, more stable, because their mind has been trained not to eliminate emotion, but to manage it, to guide it, to control its influence. This is what separates reactive people from calm ones, not the absence of emotion, but the presence of control. If this message is motivating you to build discipline, subscribe to the channel, because discipline creates freedom. 5. Anger hurts you more than anyone else. Anger feels powerful in the moment. It feels like control, like strength, like a necessary reaction. But if you look closely, it does not empower you. It weakens you, not immediately, but gradually. It clouds your thinking. It narrows your perspective. It pushes you to act without clarity. And those actions often lead to regret. The Stoic philosopher Seneca described anger as a form of temporary madness, because in that moment you are no longer thinking clearly. You are reacting, driven by emotion, not guided by reason. And while it may feel justified, it comes at a cost: your peace, your focus, your energy. A strong person sees this clearly. They understand that anger does not punish others. It punishes them. It disrupts their calm. It drains their strength. And once you truly understand this, you begin to let it go, not because you are forced to, but because you choose peace over reaction, because your peace matters more than your anger. If this message is helping you see anger differently, subscribe to the channel. Because real strength is calmness. The moment before you lose control. There is always a moment before anger takes over. A moment that happens so quickly, most people miss it. Something triggers you. A word, a tone, a situation, and instantly your mind reacts. Your thoughts speed up, your emotions rise, and within seconds, you are no longer in control. But if you slow down, if you pay attention, you will notice something important. That moment is not uncontrollable. It is just unobserved. A strong person trains themselves to see it. To recognize the first signal, the first thought, the first emotional shift. And in that moment, they pause. They interrupt the pattern. They choose not to follow it. This is where control begins, not after anger builds, but before it takes over. And with practice, this becomes easier. That moment becomes clearer, longer. More controllable, until eventually, you no longer react the same way. You respond differently, calmly, intentionally. If this message is helping you notice that moment, subscribe to the channel, because awareness creates control. 6. Train your mind daily. Inner peace is not something you achieve once. It is something you build every day, through repetition, through discipline, through awareness. The Stoics did not become calm by accident. They trained their minds consistently. They reflected on their actions. They examined their thoughts. They corrected their behavior. Because they understood that without training, the mind becomes reactive. It follows emotion. It exaggerates problems. It creates unnecessary stress. A strong person does not allow this. They observe their mind. They guide it. They improve it. Each day, they take time to reflect. What triggered me today? How did I respond? What can I improve? These simple questions create awareness, and awareness leads to change. At first, progress feels slow. You still react. You still feel frustration. But over time, something shifts. You notice your reactions earlier, you pause more often, you respond with more control. And eventually, calmness becomes natural, not forced, not temporary, but consistent. If this message is motivating you to train your mind, subscribe to the channel. Because discipline creates peace, the power of consistency. Most people want immediate change, immediate control, immediate peace. But that is not how transformation works. It happens slowly, through repetition, through small decisions made consistently. Each time you choose calmness over reaction, you strengthen control. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you build awareness. Each time you reflect instead of ignoring, you improve. And over time, these small changes add up. They reshape your mind. They redefine your behavior. They transform your identity. A strong person understands this. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on consistency. Because consistency creates lasting change. If this message is helping you stay committed, subscribe to the channel. Because real growth takes time. 7. Let go of what you cannot control. There is a heavy burden most people carry. The need to control everything, other people, outcomes, situations. But much of life is outside your control. And when you try to control it, you create frustration, tension, anger. The Stoic teacher Epictetus made this clear. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses. These are yours. Everything else is external. A strong person accepts this fully. They stop fighting reality. They stop resisting what cannot be changed. They let go. And in that letting go, they find peace. Because they are no longer wasting energy on what they cannot control. They focus only on what they can. And that focus creates clarity. Calmness, freedom. If this message is helping you release control, subscribe to the channel. Because freedom begins when control ends, the relief of letting go. There is something powerful about letting go, not giving up, not being passive, but releasing what is not yours to control. When you stop trying to control everything, something changes. You feel lighter, less stressed, less frustrated, because the weight is gone. You are no longer responsible for everything. You are only responsible for yourself. And that is enough. A strong person understands this. They focus inward, on their actions, on their responses, on their mindset, and because of that, they remain steady. Even when life is unpredictable, if this message is helping you feel that relief, subscribe to the channel. Because letting go creates peace. 8. Choose peace over ego. There are moments in life where you face a quiet choice, not obvious, not dramatic, but important. The choice between being right and being at peace. Most people choose to be right. They argue, they defend, they try to prove their point, because their ego demands it. But this creates conflict, tension, frustration. A strong person chooses differently. They choose peace. They let go of the need to win every argument. They let go of the need to prove themselves, because they understand something powerful. Not every battle is worth fighting. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that it is better to remain calm than to prove a point, because peace is more valuable than pride. A mentally strong person values calmness over ego. They choose understanding over reaction, and in doing so, they protect their inner peace. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. Because true strength is quiet. Most people live reactively. They respond to everything. They allow emotions to control them. And because of that, they feel unstable. But control was never outside. It was always within. The Stoics understood this. They trained their minds. They controlled their responses. They built inner peace. You can do the same, not instantly, but gradually. Each time you pause instead of react, you grow stronger. Each time you question your thoughts, you become clearer. Each time you let go of what you cannot control, you feel lighter. And over time, these small changes create something powerful, a calm mind. And a calm mind changes everything. You think better, you act better, you live better. Not because life is perfect, but because you are. If you made it this far, something in you is ready to grow, ready to improve, ready to become stronger. But knowledge alone is not enough. What matters is what you do next. Take one principle from this video, apply it today. Because small changes repeated daily will transform your life. If you want more Stoic wisdom that builds discipline, focus, and inner peace, subscribe to the channel.